So that was the network again. The network is tampering with the class. I will try to relaunch again. If it doesn't work, we just get into the class. So welcome to Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoons are always the time for that GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. It is the place where we come to learn about African wisdom, to meet Africans and brothers and sisters who have journeyed through life, who have learned lessons, who have created systems and have tools that they can share with you to help you better manage your life. This is the place where we tell stories, empowering stories, powerful stories. This is the place where we create digital memories. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I am the serial author of the Africa for Smart Kids book series and publisher of GloBUNTU Books. At GloBUNTU Books, we pride ourselves with collecting, documenting, and sharing African stories, whether it be print, audio, digital, we are all in as long as it is an African story. So we stream live every Saturday afternoon on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're on Facebook, we welcome you. If you're on YouTube, we say hello. We take comments on YouTube. If you join us, please bear in mind that this is an open masterclass. We have a master teacher, but we encourage you to be part of the masterclass, share your lessons, share our master teacher, share your impressions, and take active part in this masterclass because, hey, this is all about life. And as I always say, life is a story, and every one of us has a story, and some stories are life transformational. So we are here today to share stories with you that may transform your life. My brother, who is today the master teacher, his story is it's a master class that could change your life. So you want to stick in this class from the beginning right to the end because every chapter of this master class has something important, something incredibly transformational for you. And I am so happy to have you here. So we see you on Facebook. If you want to join the masterclass live and participate, please use the comment box. Use the comment box either on Facebook or on YouTube. And please bear with me that I am only taking comments on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook and you want to participate, please take the link on YouTube and join us on Facebook and join us on YouTube. That said, I am going to bring on my master teacher for today. Our master teacher, my brother Vezi. I will let him introduce himself. Good afternoon, brother. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, my sister Beatrice. I am very excited to be having this very special privilege of having a conversation with you over things that I'm intensely passionate about. And I also greet everyone that's listening through all the social media platforms. It's really a privilege to be having a conversation with you this afternoon.
The privilege is all mine, and I'm so excited about this masterclass because I know what you'll be sharing with us is going to top on, kind of add to what we already had last week in terms of the spirit of Ubuntu. But before we get right there, how have you been? How have you been? Let's share a little bit. We are still going through the pandemic. In SA, we're still in level 4, and we saw some incidents that happened in the country last week. And I just want to check in with my brother. How are you feeling? How are you doing in the midst of all of that?
Yes, my sister, you know, I have been absolutely gutted. And most other South Africans, we've really been intensely pained that during a level 4 lockdown, we've had this just such unfortunate incidents of criminality and looting in South Africa. And a lot of us have been asking ourselves questions. how did we get here? And I think at the beginning of the week, we were really almost immobilized about what does this mean? What should we do? But I think over the week, and as some of us have been uniting and participating in the cleanups, we've had a great sense of healing, that we've actually stood up and we're making a contribution, even in such tragic circumstances. And so I am discovering that in every crisis, there's an opportunity. And certainly, even in this crisis in South Africa, even in this pandemic crisis, I think there are many opportunities that when we sit down, come together and deliberate, we'll always find that there is a way for us to move on together.
That said, brother, I agree with you. In every seat of adversary is an opportunity. And if we focus on the opportunity side, we will definitely discover that. So will you quickly introduce yourself? We got into it without you introducing yourself. Will you introduce yourself to our masterclass attendants and to our listener, please?
So yes, thank you. So as Sister Beatrice said, my name is Vezi, and my passion and calling in life is what I call a social engineering activist. I'm very passionate about how the environment, how the world systems that we find ourselves in shape us. And so my work is very much around how do we reform, how do we transform the systems that we find ourselves in as humanity? How do we transcend the kind of circumstances that we find ourselves in, particularly in the continent of Africa? And so a lot of the work I do, I work as a leadership coach. I am an author. I've released 2 books. And I am a co-founder of an organization called Ubuntu Kithi Network, the purpose of which is to advocate and research and advance the work on the values of Ubuntu or Ubuntu consciousness. And so that's my sister really, for me, sharing my heart this afternoon about all of this work and how we can partner together. I'm excited about that.
I am more excited than you are right now. So if you're joining us, we see you joining us on Facebook and YouTube. We welcome you. This is the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass that comes to you every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. South African time. That is GMT +2. This is a family class. It's for you to bring your children, sit down and listen to some of this wisdom, because you will find this wisdom nowhere. You'll find it in no school, no curriculum. You will only find it in the School of Life right here. And this School of Life Masterclass comes to you in 4 chapters. We are right into the first chapter now, which is the introduction. And we will close up that chapter with learning about the story, that God-defining moment that transformed the life of our master teacher forever. In chapter 2, we will be looking for nuggets. We're looking for 5 key lessons that he has learned throughout life and that carry him through every adversity in life. In chapter 3, we will be looking at what he is at right now. You know, people like this, they're always at something. So we will be looking for that thing that he's right at now. And in chapter 4, we wrap it all up in a very nice, fun-filled quiz session. I wouldn't call it quiz. It's another level of the conversation where you just complete some sentences for me in a nutshell, authentic and natural and as fun-filled as possible. That said, we are right in now into the masterclass. And I am going after you, brother, asking you to share with us that God-defining moment that shifted the course of your life forever. Over to you.
Yeah, the defining moment in my life was surprisingly not many years ago, probably about 8 years ago. I remember it vividly. It was a Sunday. And this for me was a defining moment because it was, even though we were having a mundane conversation with my wife, but something happened within me at a certain point in our conversation. And I discovered that all my life, all my professional life, all my life in faith, I discovered that I had been pursuing everything that I had been doing. I had been living for me. I had been so oriented towards serving myself, making myself happy, advancing myself, growing myself, that I so for me, discovering suddenly, almost in an instant, through a conversation with my wife, that, hang on, I have been absolutely living selfishly for the past 40 odd years. It was really for me quite a huge revelation. And I think by the grace of God, I think that was something that defined my life because it changed my worldview. It changed how I looked at others. And suddenly for me, I started thinking that if I've been living for myself, have been self-serving, so what does this new chapter mean? And so, and this has meant for me that I need to invest in serving others. I need to invest in being able to um, support others through their journeys. And so I have then dedicated my life since then, 8 years ago. I have dedicated my life that I will invest in serving leaders of, particularly of Africa, leaders of the world. And I will, so I made a decision at that point in time that I will stop living for myself, but I will start living for others. So that's really changed how I prioritize my time, I prioritize my budget, how I go about, even in the way that I have conversations with others. I'm always aware that when I'm having a conversation with another, it's not about me. It's about, where is the other? Am I paying enough attention to know where they're at, what kind of support they need? And so for me, that was a big transition, my sister. And as I said, I think it was just a gift that I still treasure to this day.
You know, when I listen to you, I keep smiling because sometimes we are called upon. We are called upon. Some people are called upon earlier to realize that we are here to serve. Some people
Yes.
are called upon a little bit later in their lives. And some people are never called upon, or they are called upon, but they don't listen. And I think it takes a lot of maturity, a lot of wisdom, a lot of growth to stand and say, I realize that I've been living selfishly. You know, people who always point fingers at others. So I commend you for that. I commend you for that moment. It reminds me of the time when I had to leave my kids and everything that I ever stood for in Europe to move to South Africa with 2 suitcases. And while here, I discovered that I could write books. And so when you tap into that, when you get into that point and you turn around, the energy that you have, I'm sure you feel the energy
Yeah.
that you have, and the creativity that you tap into is just incredible. It's just incredible. And I'm so happy that you got into that point. And I'm thankful for your wife that the two of you sat down and had that conversation that brought you to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
So that is the story. So you commit to serving the leaders. What is your what is the passion? Where does the passion to serve leaders come from?
So, my sister, I think what I discovered during this journey is that as a male, in Africa, there was a particular way that I was socialized, and the way I was socialized was in so many ways had not given me a sense of being the aware of the other. And so the first thing that I started asking myself when I discovered that all my life I had been self-serving, I asked myself, how did I get here? How have I gotten here? And what I discovered, and really for me, this is the journey of my life. What I discovered was that we live in a world that has systems through the education systems, through our socialization systems, through our peer networks, particularly as males in Africa. I discovered that the world that we live in conditions us for self-orientation. And so my passion when I serve leaders is to illuminate how the world systems shape us, condition us, how the world systems get us to think that things that are not normal, like living for yourself, thinking that it is absolutely normal. So we normalize the abnormal. And so my work with leaders is really to get us to discover together how the world works, to understand the fault lines of our socialization, to understand the fault lines of our education systems, so that we may engage and be able to transcend these systems, so that we don't continue to be enslaved by the systems that we've been born into or that were imposed upon us, but that we may transcend and transform these systems for the betterment, so that our children, when they grow up, they may grow up into a much better world system than what we found. And so really that is that's what I continue to do. It's to illuminate how the world works and then ask the hard questions. How do we transform this world for the betterment of our society?
You know, when you speak, I love the word that you use. Some people would say, I coach, I train. You saying, I serve leaders. And that really, really says it all for me. It says it all for me, the way the approach that you take when you are working with those leaders. And I commend you for that. Talking about service, it's time for us to go serve the children. We have the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award that is going into the second round. And the essence of the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award is to celebrate, spotlight, and celebrate our Black and brown kids across the globe. To they're going through a terrible time. I don't know, you and I, in our childhood, we probably had our challenges, but I don't think we were locked down. I don't think we had to move around with masks. And I think the children of this generation, they are going through an unprecedented time. And the bravery with which they are going through that really, really calls for us adults to pay more attention to them, to spotlight them, to celebrate them, and to let them know that we see them. And we do that at GloBUNTU Books with the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award, which I would like to put on screen right now. So if you're a parent, you are around children, you are an auntie, you are godmother, godfather, whoever you are, a teacher, this is for you. Please nominate Black and brown kids to be affirmed, to be celebrated for their bravery. So let's go take a look at that award. Hello, welcome. Thank you for clicking on this link. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I am the serial author of the Africa for Smart Kids book series, publisher of GloBUNTU Books, and curator of the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award. Last month, July, we had the honor to honor, uplift, and celebrate Black and brown kids who are beating the pandemic and excelling in 8 categories. The joy I saw on the faces of those kids when we affirm them. The confirmation that we got from their parents and from their families and their loved ones and from social media was for me an irresistible invitation to set up the second round. Some parents have been asking, when is the next nomination round coming up? And I am here to tell you that the next round of nomination is open. You can go to our website, www.globuntubooks.com, click on the Black Youth Summit and Award, and nominate your child. Stick on to the end of this video so you can get a clear understanding of the different categories and who we are looking for in each one of these categories. I look forward to having you join us to uplift, celebrate, and affirm Black and brown kids across the globe to stand up to their greatness and to be as great as they can. This is what the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award is all about. I'll see you at the award. Here are the categories for this second round of nominations. GloBUNTU Creative Trailblazer. This category celebrates kids and young adults who, despite the pandemic and being locked down, have been able to use the time to ignite their creativity. This includes all forms of creative writing and publishing, including but not limited to books, blogs, podcasts, vlogs, paintings, drawings, music, poetry, radio programs, etc. GloBUNTU COVID-19 Solution Trailblazer. In this category, we are looking out for kids and young adults who have come up with any solutions, technology, devices, etc. that helps create awareness, offer protection and prevention or cure of COVID-19. GloBUNTU Community Impact Trailblazer. This category is for kids and young adults who are engaged in social activities in their communities and neighborhoods during the ongoing pandemic, such as helping elderly people and taking care of the needy and most vulnerable members of their communities. GloBUNTU Healthcare Awareness and Services Trailblazer. This category recognizes kids and young adults who are engaged in providing healthcare services to people in their communities, such as working in hospitals, COVID testing and vaccine centers, traditional healing programs, and any other related healthcare facilities. GloBUNTU Family Unity Trailblazer. This category rewards any contributions by kids and young adults in helping families stay together, protected, and happy during the lockdown. This includes helping with house chores, ensuring that quarantine rules such as social distancing, sanitizing, and other hygienic rules are respected at home. A GloBUNTU Invention and Innovation Trailblazer. This category recognizes kids and young adults who, despite the ongoing pandemic and being locked down, have successfully invented COVID and homeschool-related solutions that help people stay safe, protected, peaceful, and happy during the pandemic. GloBUNTU Business and Finances Trailblazer. This category recognizes kids and young adults who have successfully developed income-generating business solutions or concepts during the pandemic, which are now giving them an income. GloBUNTU Academic Trailblazer. In this category, we recognize kids and young adults who, despite the pandemic and being locked down, have excelled at school through excellent grades, regular school attendance, have always completed their homework on time, and all shown exemplary behavior at school. Thank you for staying right up to the end of this video. Now it's time to call you to action. Make sure to go to www.globuntubooks.com and click on Black Kids Summit and Award to nominate any child of your choice. Remember, we nominating children from the ages of 5 to 20. And kindly help us share this invitation, this nomination call. And remember that by just sharing, you could change the course of a child's life forever. We are going through the pandemic, and taking the time to celebrate our children is one of the best investment that we can do at this time. So thank you for helping us to share this invite around you. I'll see you at the award. So we are back in the masterclass. We're back in the masterclass, and we are into chapter 2 of your masterclass. And if you have kids around you, please make sure that you nominate them for the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award, and so we can celebrate them as well. So that said, Master Teacher, we are going to chapter 2. We are now looking for those 5 key lessons that you've learned either from childhood or from that God-defining moment or at all. 5 key lessons that you've learned that defined you, that you are happy to share with our listeners. So over to you, Master Teacher.
Thank you, my sister. So these lessons, I will be building on them sequentially. So if as I share, you sit and say, I don't get that, just bear with me. So the first lesson that I want to share is that we need to recognize that notwithstanding the challenges that we face as humanity, notwithstanding the extent of poverty and oppression and subjugation that we see in Africa, the one thing that I have learned is that we need to believe that we can transform the state of humanity and the world we live in. In 2009, I had an opportunity to work with about 30 young people from over 25 countries around Africa, and some from Europe and the Americas. And this group of young people were mostly almost graduates, or they were going into varsity. And the question that we deliberated on is, how can we transform, or how can we change our worlds? What can we do to make a difference in our worlds from wherever we come from? And so we, all in all, we spend a year with these young people over 4 blocks of about 5 days each. And so after, so these young people then adopted a project that would be a demonstration that they believed that they can transform their world. And so these 30 young people went back to their respective countries, implemented these projects. A year later, in fact, about 2 years later, we compiled a testimony of what each of these young people had done. And I was astonished by what these young people had been able to do in a short space of time without a great deal of resources, with just support and mentoring. I'm going to mention a few young people. One young people in Liberia had gone and started a children's early development center in their village, and she got an award from a presidential award for her work because of the nature of its impact. Another young person from Kenya who had been unemployed and didn't know what to do with his time, went back to Mombasa and said, I want to be able to talk about young people, to young people about what I'm learning. And so what, when he got back, he said, I'm going to go to the local radio station and I'm going to say, give me an opportunity to talk to young people. His show became the most popular show for that year in his radio station. So I just want to register that when we are intentional about thinking about how we can transform our world, it is possible. So that was lesson number one. The second lesson that I want to share is that for us to be able to transform our world, I've learned that it is important to recognize what I mentioned earlier in the introduction. We need to recognize that our world has conditioned us. Our world has imposed on us identities that shape our behavior. And I want to tell a very short experiment that was done by a professor. His name was Philip Zimbardo in 1971. He recruited 24 people and he wanted to do an experiment about how the roles that get imposed on people, how they can shape their identity. So he recruited 24 people and went and set up what he called a prison. So the whole experiment was a simulation of a prison. And so he set it up at the basement of one of the universities in the US. And then he randomly distributed these 24 males, middle-class males, into prisoners and guards. And so the guards were given all the gear of guards, the stick, the shades, and so they were kitted like guards. And then the prisoners were given just prisoner clothes, and they were not even given underwear, and they were just dressed shabbily. Even the food they were given was just bland food, typical prison food. So what unraveled after that was that so Zimbardo gave them the brief that the guards must just make sure that they don't harm the prisoners, and so but they just had to act the role of the guards and control the prisoner behavior. And so what unraveled subsequent to that shocked even Philip Zimbardo himself. The flagrant nature of the cruelty of the guards to the prisoners was just shocking. So, for example, they would deprive, for example, them with mattresses to sleep at night, or bathroom facilities. And these were middle-class males who were just given a role in a simulation. After a few days, one of the guards actually had to be sent home because they were in such distress. A visitor later to this experiment, when he looked at the cruelty that was happening at this facility, or at this simulation facility, reported to Zimbardo to say that you must stop this. This is unethical. And so after 6 days, only after 6 days, Zimbardo stopped the experiment. Now, what I want us to understand is that in a world that we live in, there are certain roles, and whether you are middle class, or you are a particular race, or a particular gender, or you are a particular religion, what we need to understand is how the world system, like the guards and prisoners experiment, starts to impose this identity on us, and we start to act as in those roles, and we start to even become the things we are not. These were men who were, some of them could be considered kind, but here they were absolutely cruel because they assumed roles that they had been imposed on them. So we need to understand, therefore, that in this world system, there are roles that are imposed on us, and we need to identify that those roles are not making us who we are not supposed to be. So, my sister, that is the second lesson, and I will continue building on this in the next 3 lessons.
I love those lessons. The first one is believe that that you can transform the state of the world that we live in. And I think when you know the book Think and Grow Rich, Think and Grow Rich, one of the principles is to desire and to believe that you can. And I think all the people that have transformed the world are people who at any one moment have believed in what they were doing, even though people consider them to be crazy. You know, how can you think that you sit here and I'm talking to my brother in another part of South Africa and we are being listened to, the whole world can listen to you, and you don't even know where you're just connected to a cable. You have to have believed in that. Okay. And I think there's so many things that are done. How do you think that people can fly with a heavy aeroplane, flies in the air with a lot of cargo and kilos and land somewhere safely? That you can speak on the phone somewhere and someone is listening and seeing you. You know, you got to believe that these things are possible when you get out to create them. And I'm happy that you had the results that you had with those young people that you mentored, especially that the one from Liberia and the one from Kenya. I think it's incredible. If we believe more, we can change more, we can transform more, we can make the world a much better place than when we sit and we wait for someone else to believe and to transform us.
Yes.
And the second one, you said, recognize that the world conditions us. The world conditions us, and you went on to illustrate with that story. And it just reminds me, we have actors and actresses. When you
Yes.
go to a movie, someone is given a role. This person is just this person, and you put them in the role of a king, put them in the role of a queen, put them in the role of a domestic worker, put them in any role, and they start acting that role as if that's who they were born to be. That's who they've always been their lives. And I think if we recognize that being alive is constantly acting roles, we're constantly taking on roles, whether as parents, as members of the communities, as servants, as masterclass teachers, we're constantly taking on roles. And we can always step out of those roles. And being in that role doesn't mean that we should act irresponsibly. If we are human beings and we are mindful of who we are and the fact that whatever decision that we make affects everyone because we are interconnected, we will act in those roles. Whatever role we're given, we will act with dignity and respect for the human lives that we touch when we are in these roles. I love those stories. Well, then let's continue with your lesson number 3, number 4, and number 5. Over to you.
So beautifully captured and summarized, my sister. You have done a fantastic job. And just to build on to what you said, you see, what we need to understand is that our behavior and how we show up and how we engage and how we execute and how we do the work that we do on a daily basis, we need to understand that it is driven by how we define ourselves. So, my sister, you asked me at the beginning, so tell us about yourself. Who are you? And I think I want to challenge all our viewers here to think about, who are you? How do you define yourself? Because that identity that you define yourself, that's what's going to drive your behavior. That's how you're going to show up. And so what I have learned then, thirdly, my sister, is that the best way for us to, or the best place to anchor our identity is on our calling or our purpose for life. Because you see, the world system divides us according to race, gender, career, and the moment you take up that identity, we become like guards and prisoners. You get people who are going to defend their turf or trying to advocate for this. But when I identify and anchor my identity on my purpose, I will show up and I will pursue the service of others through my purpose. And so this is what this is just a summary of this third lesson is that ask yourself, what are you living for? What's your purpose? And so when you asked me, my sister, who are you? I said, I am a social engineering activist, because that's my identity. And that's when I sleep and wake up, when I walk, that's the identity I assume. And so when I engage with people, that's what's on the forefront on my mind. The fourth lesson is that when you found your purpose, and this is the beautiful thing that changed my life, is that when you lay hold of that which you are living for, that which you are called to do in life, what you will discover, and I have done this with hundreds of leaders for the past 10 years without fail, people discover that the moment you discover your purpose, you're going to find that it is about serving others. Whatever purpose that you'll define, you will find that the only way you're going to pursue that purpose is going to be through the service of others. And this is when beautiful things happen, because I'm no longer living for myself. I am living to serve, and I'm living to make a contribution. The last lesson. I think what happens, this magic that I'm talking about, is that when I'm living out my purpose, when I find and lay hold and live out for my purpose, it changes how I see others. Because I see others not as a place of advancing my dreams and the next step in the ladder or building my network to a higher place, but I see them for how I can serve them. And as I summarize this, I just want to tell a short story. I coached a senior executive who had a very difficult boss, and she was saying, I can't go to work anymore because I think the man hates me. We're always fighting, and it's just unbearable, and I don't know what to do. So our coaching process was basically, so what do you do? And I said to her, you know what? Given that you are stuck, there's something that I've learned in my own life about what transforms other people. I asked her, how do you see him? When you see him, how do you see him inside of you? And then we had a coaching process where I said, change the way you see him. Serve him as a leader in this business. Seek out how you may serve him, how you may make him look good as a leader, how you may make him successful. And the lady went away. A few weeks later, she calls me and she says, you won't believe it. You won't believe what is happening. I don't know how this works, but I know it works. And she says, the man has changed. He is almost, I'm seeing another man. Why? Because she changed how she saw him inside of her. And so here's the concluding lesson. It's that we can change people. We can transform people the way we look at them. So when you find your purpose and you seek out how you may serve them, wherever you are, whatever conversation you are in, whatever space you are in, you'll be changing and transforming people. And so I believe with all of my heart that the best way to transform this world that we live in is for each one of us, find your calling, find your purpose, because it is that purpose that will position you to serve. And as you serve, you will change the way you look at people. And as you change the way you look at people, they will change, because we are powerful. We can influence people the way we think about them. And so for me, that has been a profound learning, and I have seen it over and over in my life, my sister. I get messages from people who say, you know what, you help me see things that I never understood. But there's something about being in your presence that transformed me. And and for me, it's always about how I see the person is what will change the person.
That is so, so powerful. That is so powerful. If you're joining us, we are in the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. And again, this is the place where you get those lessons of life that you'll not get in any book, that you may not get in any school, and you'll not get in any university. Musa, we see you. We see you participating. Keep coming, brother. Text us. Tell us how you feel. What are the key lessons that you've learned about yourself? Where have you been, and what drives you? What is your story? Let us know. We're here to serve, and we're here to take lessons and to learn and to share. So, brother, anchor your identity and your purpose. You know, most of the time, if you don't know who you are, people will condition you to start pursuing who you think people want you to be.
Yeah.
And I come from that space. After living 20 years in Europe, you live in an environment that constantly tells you who you are, who you are not, and you get to a stage where you start believing that that is who you are, and you spend all your energy and time trying to be who you think that people want you to be. And you drift away from your God-given purpose and from your identity. And then you wonder when things happen in your life, it happens to your life, and you're wondering, I'm working so hard. Why should this happen to me? It has to do with the fact that you have lost your sense of purpose, and with that, your sense of identity when you don't know who you are. And if you give people to believe that you don't know who you are, people will make you become who they want you to be. And I think that drifts you even further away from your life purpose. So I love that, putting your linking the identity and purpose is something extremely powerful. The third one, you said your purpose is about serving others. And I think we live in an ecosystem, which is, it should be so simple for all of us to understand. When you serve someone, you get paid for that service. And when you get paid for that service, that changes your life, improves on your life standards. So a teacher serves students, not the administration. A teacher serves students. And I think this brings us to Ubuntu. As a professor, you are serving your students as well. A judge serves people who are supposedly have committed crimes. You serve them. And leaders serve the people. Leaders serve the people. Parents serve their children. And I think if we understand this and we know that we are here to serve and not to be served, even if you're being served, you're serving someone. And if you're serving no one on this earth, you're serving your creator. So life here is all about service. And the earlier we recognize that and find a way we can best serve so that we can create an impact in the life of the people that we serve, and in turn create an impact on ours, that will make life easier for most of us. You know, you journey through life in a lighter way than when you think that because you have a certain position, you have a certain title, you need to be served in a certain way. And I think I love that. You said purpose changes the way we see others. And when Daya once said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Absolutely.
When you change the way you look at change. And bringing it right here, we can say, if you change the way you look at people that show up in your life, the way you see them changes, and the way they treat you changes, the way you interact with them changes. So it's all about, being in that position to say, I have the power. I can always determine, I can decide what actions I take, the way I see people and how I interact with them, knowing that the way I interact with them influences what I get from them, and what I get from them becomes my reality at the end of the day. So it's not a one-way traffic kind of thing. I just like that. When you say we can transform people just through the way we look at them, it brings me back to our GloBUNTU Trailblazers. Last month, when we were honoring this kid, the youngest of them was just 4 years old, but she has met the president. Why? Because even though she can barely speak, she's sending out messages, asking people to respect quarantine rules. She's congratulating frontline workers. She's just four. She's just four. And this is a young girl who is out to create an impact. And when you talk to this kid and you say, what are we adults doing wrong? How should we parent? How should we behave during the pandemic? And the advice that we got from the kids was just incredible. I was like, we should be listening to our kids more than listening to some leaders. We should be listening to kids and asking them how we can interact, because they still have this natural, naive, pure way of looking at things. And we tend to complicate things as adults. So I just love these lessons. I love them, and we could expand on them forever. But before we wrap it all up, let's wrap up your lessons. Is there a final word that you want to, a final
Yes.
roof that you want to put on top of this powerful lessons that you have learned?
Yes, my sister, and I think you've touched on it. What I think we need to amplify here is that, particularly as Africans, we have been gifted with a consciousness of Ubuntu, the awareness of the other. And so for us as Africans, this is not something that should be a huge challenge to be able to do, transforming others. And so because we understand that there is this ecosystem of otherness. And so when my identity is premised on how I serve and add value to others, I think that's Ubuntu. And finally, I believe, my sister, and all of us that are here, I believe that we need to continue to research on this concept of Ubuntu consciousness. I think we can advance it. And I think we can be able to bring it back into our schools, into our education curriculums, into our churches, in a way that it can really build on what was naturally gifted to us. And so I hope that we can talk about this again, because I believe with all of my heart that when we lay hold of that purpose and we start to serve others, this is really, in essence, this is what Ubuntu is about.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll go back again to Mandela, who was the essence of Ubuntu. We may have our sentiments and our thoughts and our ideas about him, but this is someone from whom I learned a whole lot, that principle of Ubuntu. When he says, the most difficult thing in life is not changing society, but changing ourselves. When you get to that point where you can turn around and say, the biggest change that I can make in the world is changing myself, changing the way I look at the world, changing the way I show up, changing the way I interact with people, changing the way I live humanity. I think it is powerful. And when Steve Biko said that the world will learn from that the world can advance in every direction, but the one key thing that the world can learn only from Africa is humanness. Is humanness. And I think this is the embodiment of the Ubuntu philosophy that we are talking about. And so I'm happy. I will definitely sit down and talk about this philosophy. We already have our sister, Dr. Taki, who was in last week, and she touched so profoundly on the principles of Ubuntu. And if someone doesn't know the principles of interconnectedness, we know it now with the pandemic. They said it started in Wuhan in China, but the whole world is affected. This shows us how interconnected we are and how one decision that we make in any one corner of the world can affect the whole world forever. So I think this is what that Ubuntu is, and the better we know about it, the better we can navigate through life. So that said, there's so much that we can still talk about this, but we'll do that in another masterclass. I would love for us to move on to the next chapter of the masterclass. and we still see Musa is on. For those of you who are watching, this is the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I am your host, and our master teacher today is my brother Vezi, and we're talking about how finding your identity and your life purpose is the starting point that will help you navigate through life as a servant and as a learner and as a teacher. And it's the first step to living a fulfilled life. We are constantly looking for master teachers. If you're out there and you say, I have learned lessons, I have journeyed through life, I got a story to share, please inbox me and I will reach out to you. Our goal here is to reach out to capture 100 master stories, master teachers, blueprint their stories and their voices and their lessons learned forever. So if you're out there and you're ready for this, or you know someone that you want to recommend, please, we are constantly looking out for master teachers. That said, we are going to chapter 3 of your masterclass, my brother. And that chapter 3 is, what are you at now? What is your next chapter?
Yes, so I want to give a metaphor, and then I will then connect it to what this next chapter is about. If you have a computer that's not functioning properly, and maybe it keeps crashing, or it's too slow, the best solution that you will always be given is that, you need a fresh install. You need to work on the operating system. So in Africa, what we need to realize is that almost every solution that's been prescribed so far by Africans or imposed on Africans has been to maybe fix this or that, fix the hardware, maybe change the economic policy, or maybe change the politician, or maybe do this or that. But we have not worked on the operating system. And the operating system is these things that we've been talking about: identity, who we are, how we think about ourselves. Until in Africa, we get to work, roll up our sleeves, and work on the operating system, we're going to keep producing the same results over and over again. So, connecting this to my next 3 projects, the next chapter for me, I, as I mentioned earlier, am a co-founder of an NPO called Ubuntu Kithi Network. It's a member-based organization, and our work is to do research, advocacy, and demonstration of making a business case on Ubuntu consciousness and the application of Ubuntu values. And so we want to use this organization to work on the operating system, on our mindset, because that's really where in Africa we need to be working. The second project that I'm working on, my sister, is I'm writing a book. It's my 3rd book. It's called Liberating Glory. And it's really about how can we be set free from these world systems. And so part of what I've described is really outlined. It is much more detail in this upcoming book. And so for me, again, it's a work that I think is important for us to work on our operating system so that we can change our behavior, how we show up. And I'm also studying theology. My goal is to do some research on leadership and spirituality. And so I want to really invest a lot of time in actually advancing, investing in advancing research on Ubuntu. And really, we need to be taking this, this consciousness, and we need to be asking, how can we make it pervasive throughout all our sectors of society? So that's my what I'm working on, my sister, and I continue then with all my bread and butter leadership coaching and teaching leadership. But those are the big projects I'm working on currently.
I love those projects. I do. And I think where we connect is where we agree that in order for any change to happen, we have to change the mindset.
Yes.
I'd say we have to go, we don't even have to talk about decolonization, because when we talk about decolonization, we're still in that framework. You're busy trying to decolonize something that has been there for so long. And I think what we have to do is shift from there and say, what is it that I can do new? What was I sent here to do? What is my gift? How can I liberate that? And I speak from a space of understanding. Why I was in 20 years in Europe, I spent most of the time trying to change the European system. And I worked like a bee, and nothing was changing in the country that I was. Instead, things were getting worse. And when I took a pause and said, listen, what were you sent here for? And something said in me, you are a creator, not a fixer. You're a creator, not a fixer. And I turned around and I came back here. And within 4 years, you're publishing 19 books and you're wondering, where do this come from? Had I stayed in that system and continued to try to change that system, I would be a very bitter, a very cynical, a very frustrated woman. And look at me today. You know, you're creating a legacy. You're having these wonderful conversations. And I think that's, for me, where mindset work comes from, mind power. When you discover the power of your mind and you allowed yourself to liberate yourself from those limiting belief systems, those limiting and negative belief system, the negative talk, to finally find who you were born to be. And to find that, brother, I always ask myself the question, if today was my last hour and I stood in front of my ancestors who fought for the freedom that I have, and I stood in front of my creator and they said, what did you do with the life that I gave you? What did you do with the foundation that I laid out? What did you do with the fact that I gave, my life was taken for you to have freedom? What would I say? And I listened to my heart. And when the heart said, go do research, go let people understand Ubuntu, go run a masterclass, I do just that. And I think if we find these questions that allowed us to tap into that source in us. And someone said, prayer is you talking to God, and intuition, listening to the voice in you, is you listening to God. So it's God talking to you. Your intuition is God talking to you.
Yes.
And I think it's so important that you go into your mind and recognize that what you feed your mind with every day determines, that we live in two simultaneous worlds, the inner world and the outer world. And that the inner world is the one that controls the outer world. The outer world is just a mirror of what is inside of you. And if you can recognize that and go inside and start feeding your mind with the things that you want to see in your outer world, it will eventually reflect in your outer world. And mind work is the most important work that you can do in your life. And I thank you for touching on that and for making that one of your big projects. I am here. If we need to talk more on that, I am definitely right here. So that said, where can people find you? I know your blog and your books. Where can anyone who is listening now who says, I need to reach out to that brother, I need to find out about what he's doing with people's minds, with his mind, with leadership service, where can people find you?
Yes, just before I get to that, please allow me, you capture something so powerfully that very few people actually understand or get. The whole concept of decoloniality, even the word centers the narrative on coloniality, and you can't transcend. You cannot transcend what is still your reference point. Okay, so you can't break out of which you continue to make your reference point. And so this issue of decoloniality or decolonization, it's still making the reference point to that you were colonized, but we need to be transcending that. And so we need to be thinking outside that box. So thank you for capturing that. I think that's extremely powerful. Where can those that are with us this afternoon reach me? I have a blog with every link, whether it's my books or all the writings that I do or the YouTube videos that I do. You can reach me at uvezi.com. So it's uvezi.com. And all my contact details are there. You can also, if you want to follow me on Facebook, it's Vezi Mncwango or just Vezi. You will find me. I'm one of the few Vezis on the cyberspace. And I look forward to engaging with any of you. If you say hi, drop me an inbox, and if you want to chat some more, I'm more than happy to engage. I exist to serve leaders. So if you're a leader here and there's something that you think you want to engage me on, that's what I'm here for. That's what I exist for, to serve leaders of our continent. So thank you so much, my sister Beatrice, for this conversation. It's been absolutely a privilege to have this special conversation with you, and I hope it has added some value to those that have been listening.
Oh yes, we're not yet done. Don't close the the masterclass is still ongoing. And I want to share with us another thought that came from Steve Biko. He said, when you change the mind, nothing is ever the same again when you change the minds of people. And I think sometimes we got to listen to these people who have been around, people who left footprints behind. What was their mind? What was on their mind? What were they saying? What kind of words did they use? The power of words that we use is so incredible. That's why I work so much with information, because, and we can have a long conversation on, when we're talking about, liberating Africa, I think we have to change the conversation completely. Let's not talk about poverty alleviation. Let's talk about wealth generation. Let's not talk about unemployment. Let's talk about job creation. For me, changing the paradigm, changing the narrative means that we don't fix, like you and I are talking, fixing the points of reference that have not brought anything so far, but changing the conversation completely and starting with the end in mind. What is it that we want to achieve? We want to achieve riches. We want to achieve worth. Then how about we start by saying, let's create worth. And something magic happened when you do this. I learned it from my children. When I wake up in the morning, when they were still younger, and I say, I have a problem, you see, either they're telling me their problems and we sit on a bunch of problems, or they're just running to their rooms and no one wants to hear my problem again. But when I say I need a solution, something magical happens. They all sit on the table and everyone wants to bring the best solution. And you end up with so many new ideas and with positive energy. So for me, this whole idea of fixing, I'm saying let's create. If we have more creators, if we create what we were meant to create, what we know how to create, the world will be a more better place than when we continue to fix what has been out there for centuries. I know this is a conversation that we can expand on and expand. But if there's something that you want to add there before we move to the last chapter of the masterclass, I will say, brother, go on.
Okay, I love that, my sister. I really love it. And I'm passionate about what you are saying. An example of this thing. If I say to you now, don't think of a pink elephant, guess what you will do? You will think of a pink elephant. And so this notion that when we are trying to break away from a system, that we talk about the system, guess what starts to happen cognitively? We invest our cognitive resources and energy towards that system. And so this concept of let's focus on our conversation on what we want to create. And I do think that this is exactly what we should be about. We should be saying, how do we expand our productivity? How do we expand our markets? How do we deepen our self-understanding? Because the more we make that which we're wanting to break away from a reference point, the more we become prisoners of the very place that we're in, because we are using that as a reference point. So let's use the reference point that which we want to see, not that which we don't want to see. Because the way we are wired is the moment I say to you, don't think about the pink elephant, that's exactly what you do. So I love this, how you've captured. Let's focus our conversation on creativity, not what we don't want.
Mm. Mm. Thank you. Thank you so much for recapping that and reminding us. There are people who are joining us. I'll get to them and congratulate them. If you're here, please, this is the 13th masterclass. We have done 13 of these sessions, and each one of them is so incredibly powerful. You want to check the inbox. If you check the description box on this video, you'll see all the other masterclass videos links line up for you. So take your time and watch them. If you're a teacher, you are a parent, watch this with your children. You know, this is education. It's talking about us. So we really encourage you to use these videos wherever you are. They are free on YouTube. You can download them. You can work with them. This is the reason why we're putting them out there for you. So talking about history and talking about resources, brother allowed me again to bring in something that we're working on. Did you know that there is an AU Africa's Women's Day? Africa's Women's Day. And that this day has been in existence since 1962. It's older than the African Union organization, its commission itself. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, this is what we discovered. And did you know that we have had 40 female prime ministers and presidents in Africa since 1975? Wow. This is my book. And so on the 31st of July is Africa's Women's Day. And this day has been around since 1962. We, a group of African women and men, just picked on this day, and we say we're celebrating it so that it should be known in every corner of the world. And we should celebrate it at the same as we celebrate International Women's Day. So if you allowed me, I'll just go in there. This is Africa's Women's Day. We have a page on Facebook. You can follow. It's on Instagram as well. Every day we're spotlighting an African woman. And this year we are focusing on the political legacy of African women. And so we're spotlighting every day one of the 40 female presidents and prime ministers that we have had on the continent. If you want to be part of this, please just go Google Africa Women's Day on Facebook. You'll see the page. Join us. And registration to participate on this day is free. You can be in there and join us as we celebrate our political, women who have defied all odds and dared to venture to the highest office in their countries. And what I admire about these women is that almost all of them are not political professionals. They are women who have excelled in different fields of life. Some of them are medical doctors. Some of them are business women, bankers, insurance brokers, lawyers. They have excelled in their field, and based on the profile, the competencies, the expertise, and the experience and the vision they had, they were put into these positions. And we really, really need to celebrate them because they are our trailblazers. So I just wanted to share that with us as we move on, because the School of Life Masterclass is where we learn, we teach. And Maya Angelou said, when you learn, teach. And that's exactly what we're doing here in this masterclass. So my brother, you are ready for the final chapter of this masterclass today. I will say, I'm ready too. Are you ready?
I am ready.
So let's go have fun.
Let's do this.
Complete the following sentences for me, authentically, briefly, compact, and as natural as you can. So number one is the most valuable thing that I've learned about myself during the pandemic is
the beauty and the resilience of humanity.
Wow. The keywords that define me are, the three keywords that define me are
love for humanity.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What most people do not know about me is that
I am delicately vulnerable. I still like to get feedback if I make sense on things, and sometimes I shudder inside that what I say has not made sense. And I still find myself very vulnerable when I share because I'm not sure if it is going to add value. Feedback. I love feedback.
That's human, and this master class has been incredible. Your lessons are just so game changing and so clear, and I just love them. That's just a little bit of feedback that I want to give you before we
Thank you.
move on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ubuntu consciousness to me is
It is being aware of the other and your need to serve the other just as much as you take care of yourself.
whoa, wow, wow. You are turning out the best despite things not turning out right because
when things don't turn out right and you fall down and you bounce back, the universe realizes that here is a man or a woman who bounces back, and the universe respects you for that. And you get authority over that situation, because when it tries to come back, it will know that this one we tried to trip this one, and they've come back. And so I believe that each time things don't turn out right, you should know that you are earning authority over that situation in which things didn't turn out right.
I love that. I love that. And I always say, feel yourself when things are not turning out right, feel yourself like a ball, okay? Whether a basketball or whatever that is being bounced down. And the harder you bounce down, the higher you bounce back.
Yep.
And I say you bounce forward. So
Yep.
if you bounce down like baby seated bounce down, say bounce me down or don't bounce me at all, because the harder you bounce me, the higher I can bounce forward. So I like that. Like that. Um, the thought coach is someone who
Is someone who illuminates our cognitive world so that we can think the best we want to be. We are the thoughts that we think. And so the more we can curate those thoughts, the more we can become that which we want. So that's what
wow,
the thought coach does.
I love it. Kithi Network to me is
Sorry, say that again.
Kithi Network to me is
It
is
is a community of those leaders who have said that we can transform this world. We can transform the state of humanity through the advancement of Ubuntu consciousness. And they are ready to get out of their comfort zone and get out into the coalface and serve others, and serve the vulnerable, and serve those that are rejected, and change the way, and change people through the way that they look at them.
Like that. My key motivation as a coach and as a servant is
it is to see people being transformed into the image of God, into impactful, influential leaders. Once I have worked with them, when I see that they are a step closer, they've taken another step towards that, it just excites me. It's what drives me.
the one life lesson that I learned from my parents is
It doesn't matter what your resource base is. You can always get the next generation into a better space and into a better place.
Mm-hmm. And Mandela once said, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Yeah. Let your greatness blossom, right? So next question is, my message to people who are struggling with the pandemic is?
In every crisis, there's an opportunity. All of us, as we navigate this terrain of the pandemic, even if you find yourself pushing against an unmovable stone, your muscles are growing stronger. So as we navigate this terrain of this pandemic, we are learning how to be more agile and how to be more tactical in how we navigate the world around us. On the other side of this pandemic, what we will find if we persist and we continue to strive to get onto the other side, we will come out fitter, more agile, wiser, stronger to navigate the future ahead.
Powerful. A valuable tradition that we have developed during the pandemic is?
Ecosystemic thinking. It is a sense that it is a realization that I am as good as the weakest amongst us. And so if we are not in the way that we think, if we are not aware of the whole ecosystem, the pandemic affected one person and all of us got affected, and so we are so interconnected. And so the tradition which I hope we take forward is this awareness that we are so connected, that the weakest amongst us is how we are strong. And so if we can, in every decision as a leader, as a parent, as a leader in the corporate space, if we can think about how does this decision affect the ecosystem of humanity? What impact is this decision making? How is it serving those that are vulnerable amongst us? I think that we will be really powerful leaders when we become ecosystemic thinkers. We are aware of the whole system.
Wow. Thank you for breaking down that big word for me. The one thing that I always take with me when I leave home is?
I am loved, I am appreciated, I am valued, and each time I come back and my kids hug me, I feel that I am seen. You know, I am loved.
You know, that tells me where you are with your turnaround, because I was thinking that you would say my smartphone or my cell phone. It blew me away. It shows the level. It shows this where you are. I'm loving this. My one life goal that has changed during the pandemic is?
It is to really make others feel worthy. It is to make others feel seen, notwithstanding the place where they're at. So even a till, someone who's a cashier at a shop, that moment that I see them, I appreciate that they've actually risked their they are risking their lives coming out here and serving us. And when I look at them with that compassion of saying, thank you for being here. When when some of us have the luxury of sitting at home and shielding us from this pandemic, but you are here serving us. And so for me, I take every moment. Even as I look at them, even if I don't say a word, but I want to make them feel that I appreciate you. I appreciate you are here doing the job that you are doing, particularly at this time.
That includes the frontline workers who go into hospitals and you bring the risk back at home that you contaminate your
Yes.
children and your whole family. I hear you. I'm with you on that. My one goal that no. What makes me proud to be an African is?
It is the gift that God has given to this continent. That is the gift of the awareness of the other. It is the gift of grassrootedness. It is the gift, even though we may not think that this is part of us anymore, but I think as Africans, there's always this orientation of inclusivity, that if I have got someone that is from the outside and I pay attention to them, I make sure I serve them, the sojourners amongst us, we always welcome. We will always welcome those that are foreigners, and we make sure that we make them feel comfortable. It's been perverted over time, but that is still an authentically African gift that we have been given.
Some call it African hospitality, right?
Yes.
If today was my last day, I would
tell my children that they have the opportunity of going further than where I've ended, and that they can build on everything that I've been able to achieve so far. And I'll tell them that they can transform this world. We may be handing over a messed up world to them, but they have the ability to transform the state of humanity, and they can build on what I have achieved.
Incredible. The 3 wishes that I still want to fulfill before 2025 are?
I love the question. Complete my 3rd book. I would love to collaborate on transforming the social media space, fill the social media space with good, authentic African material that's entertaining, that's good. Fill the airwaves with the stories of a triumphant Africa that has withstood so many challenges on the continent. So I really want to, this presence in the media space where I start to impact how we own our narrative. And finally, what I would like to do is to tell the world that the reason we are where we are in the world is because we undervalued that which the Africans had been gifted to bring to this world. It was trodden upon, and I would like to tell the world that it is time the world sits up and listen, because there is so much that we can impart. We invite them to our masterclass of this awareness of the other, and this way the world can be a better place. And so we can export this and get the world to really appreciate what this beautiful thing about the awareness of the other is.
Okay. And keep this answer short. I know it
Okay.
requires one, but let's keep this one short. If I were the president of the United States of Africa, I would
make sure that my cabinet is made mostly of women who have understood the role of nurturing humanity.
Wow. Powerful. I want to be remembered as an African who
loved humanity, who poured himself out for the service of others.
Wow, how powerful is that? That's like the last word for this masterclass. And bro, let me tell you, you broke the record. This is the longest masterclass. We've gone on for 9 minutes. But this is just to tell you how exciting the class was. Before I give you the final words to wrap it up, I want to go acknowledge Musa. Musa, thank you for joining the class. If you feel like coming into the class and being a master teacher, we will be happy to have you here. Thank you for all your comments. We see you, we acknowledge you. Thank you, Mbeye. We see you as well. If I pronounce your name wrongly, please excuse me. Just teach me next time that you see me on how to pronounce. The best thing is come into the masterclass and teach me how to pronounce your name. So thank you so much for all your contributions. Those of you who were online, please remember this masterclasses are always out there for you. You can share them. You can come back to them at any time. Get your people and do a watch party, whatever it is, and a masterclass that interests you. And if you have people around you who can be master teachers, please get them across to us, because like my brother said, we need to populate the airwave with positive, inspiring African stories. And I think one of the best way to do is to have this conversational master classes, because some people may be shy to read a book. People may be intimidated by books, but the world is going virtual. So let's go virtual with our stories and leave our blueprint legacies right in there. So brother, your final word for this master class today before I wrap it up, over to you.
I just want to conclude by extending a challenge to all of us. And I think for me, as I shared, my biggest learning is that it is through our purpose that we can transform the world around us. So my concluding remarks is to ask you, what is your purpose? What are you living your life for? Because I believe that when we find that which we are called for, that you will transform your world. And so it's been a privilege to have this conversation. And I hope as you go to bed tonight, you may be able to find an answer to this question. What is my calling? What is my purpose in life? So thank you, my sister Beatrice. It's been an absolute privilege to have this conversation with you.
The privilege has been all mine. The privilege has been all mine, and thank you again to all those who joined us on Facebook, and if you were on YouTube and we didn't see you, next time we will see you. Just keep on coming to the masterclass. Again, my name is Beatrice Achaleke, and I love hosting this masterclass. I always look forward to Saturday because that's where I learn about life. This is where we learn lessons that we don't read in books. And again, it is our responsibility to put out our stories out there. This is the little contribution that I'm doing, and you're invited to be part of this. Don't forget to nominate your children for the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award. Let's celebrate Black and Brown kids, connect them across the continent and the diaspora, and tell them how great they are. Tell them that we see them and that we acknowledge the efforts that they're putting in beating the pandemic. If you are, no, join us on the 31st of July. Let's celebrate Africa's Women Day and make this day such very important and visible, because we're celebrating our African mothers and sisters and aunties, and we know the important role that they play in the society. And this is not just something for women, it is for all of us, because we stem from women anyway. So again, this is the 13th of this master classes, meaning we have 13 episodes for you online on YouTube and on Facebook. Please use them and share them, and let's share African inspirational stories. My name is Beatrice Achaleke, and I want to leave you with this quote from Madiba, who said, "There is no passion to be found settling for a life that you know is less than the one that you know you're worth." So don't settle for anything, not during this pandemic. Whatever you're going through the pandemic, and as my brother said, there's always something positive about it. We wish you that you tune your mind to becoming a creator, not a fixer, and that you use that creator mind to find the positive thing that comes with the pandemic, even irrespective of how chaotic it is. Thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to tune in next Saturday for another masterclass. We have another fantastic master teacher on Saturday. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to inbox us. If you're having challenging answering the question, what is your purpose? Reach out to me. I have a lot of tools that I have developed that can help you answer that question, to really help you unleash, embrace, and nurture your natural gift, your God-given gift. That said, you were in the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I thank our master teacher for today for being such a great teacher. That's it for today. Remember, life is a story, and some stories are life transforming. So what is your story? We see you on Saturday in the live masterclass. Stay safe and be blessed with your families.